Welcome to the Human Factors and Ergonomics Hub, a series of educational podcasts that showcase the connection between human capabilities and good work design, brought to you by the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society of Australia.
Hello, I'm Kath Jones. I'm the President of the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society of Australia, and I'm joined today by Justine McGillivray. Justine is the Principal Human Factors Inspector for WorkSafe WA Petroleum Safety and Dangerous Goods. Thanks for joining me today, Justine.
Thanks, Kath. Happy to be here.
I'd like to start really by asking you a bit about yourself and really what brought you into the field of human factors and ergonomics?
That's a really good question. I am an organisational psychologist. I've worked in private consulting for quite a few years, and also more so government for a long time as a regulator. Yeah. I originally started at WorkSafe in the general industries area, and over the last 6 years I've been working in the oil and gas, so Petroleum Safety and Dangerous Goods Directorate.
So with human factors and ergonomics, it's a really interesting segue, because we do have a number of our members who are from an organisational psychology background. I guess, how do you see that professional, that skill set working in human factors and ergonomics? What are the strengths there for you?
I think there's a very much organisational psychologists do work in human factors. We take a systems approach to how we work. So we look at how the broader system influences human behaviour and the things that perhaps we could improve or change to get the desired behaviour we would like. And that's whether it's leadership development to training and competency, and now where I'm working now in a high-risk industries is looking at how work is designed so that we can prevent major accident events through human factors. And it's been really great actually moving from traditionally a more compliance approach where we obviously be more reactive, go out to incidents that have occurred, and now we're moving to more the proactive space and looking at how we can apply human factors with our industry to prevent these incidents before they happen.
That's a really good background you've got, because it sounds like you've got knowledge across a range of industries. And am I right in saying you sort of started with WorkSafe looking at health and safety factors, and then you're moving more into maybe process safety? Would that be fair?
Yes, so traditionally I was mainly focused on the occupational health and safety, looking at psychosocial hazards and how systems can be designed to prevent psychosocial hazards at work. And now I've moved to process safety, looking at how we can prevent those major process safety incidents like a loss of containment of a dangerous goods, a fire or an explosion that may result in multiple fatalities. We do also look at work health and safety or occupational safety to an extent as well, because there is an overlap. If an MAE or a major accident event were to happen, people would generally be injured. So
yeah. This is one of the reasons I was excited to get you onto the podcast, is talk about the kinds of work that you've done. And I know that you've done a fair bit of work with the petroleum operations in understanding their own human factors. Can you talk to us a bit about what you've done and the projects you've worked on?
So when I came to petroleum safety about 6 years ago, I wanted to get a very good understanding of where the industry was in terms of how they integrated human factors into their operations. So I've been leading a human factors capability strategy for the last 6 years to uplift industry as well as our own internal directorate, so that we could be in line with what is happening in the industry as well. So what I organised was we conducted a baseline survey, essentially, or a baseline assessment of probably the first year was about 12 operators, small, medium and large operators, to get a really good idea of their maturity and how they were integrating human factors. And then from there, we identified a number of improvement areas and what we could do as a regulator as well to help industry. And we're in our 6th year now. We're no longer doing the baseline assessments because that was more of an education and guidance campaign. Now we're moving towards more of a compliance campaign, in a sense that we are looking at seeing, making sure industry have a certain baseline, and if they don't, then we'll help them get there. And we're doing that through proactive inspections. We're also applying a number of human factors analysis tools when we're out at site, and we'll review how a task is done and whether or not it's according to the procedure, and then obviously asking why the work may deviate from the procedure as well. So we are really embedding ourselves out in industry now to help uplift them.
I think and it's great that you started with those baseline. And I guess your first question was, when you looked at the small, medium, large industries, was there a difference in understanding of human factors? Is it better in a small or a large or a medium industry, or did you find that there was no difference?
There really wasn't any difference. It was the main, I think, differentiating factor was whether or not they had human factors professionals embedded in the organisation.
Oh, okay.
If they had internal human factors professionals, then there was a difference. That can sometimes depend on the resources of the company and if they can afford to hire human factors professionals. But also I saw a lot of engineers who had a deep passion for human factors, and so they actually brought it in to their own organisation themselves because of their interest.
Yeah.
So it really depended on if they had that internal capability.
And I'm interested to see how much that might have changed. You mentioned you're in your 6th year now of doing these kinds of assessments. Has the industry understanding of how to embed human factors in their process safety, has it improved, and in what ways has it improved?
You know, because we're not doing the assessments anymore, I can only go on what I'm seeing of the changes, and I believe it has certainly improved. So what we're seeing as a regulator is that when we receive investigation reports from our petroleum operators, they now are very explicitly exploring what human factors contributors there may have been in that incident. What we're seeing now as well is, as you may be aware, when we have a petroleum operation, they must submit a safety case for that operation to be approved. And we're seeing that operators are now considering human factors much more explicitly in how they design their safety management systems to prevent major accident events, as well as things like fatigue, how we manage the risk of psychosocial hazards at accommodation. So all of those things are much more integrated now. I'm also receiving a lot more, engagement with industry, because we are very much focused on how we can help our industry. So we'll often get calls and be asked for our advice on how to, for example, manage fatigue in a control room.
Yeah.
So it's really, really great to see that. And the other thing I've noticed is that we've been also running a human factors forum every second year, where we get our operators to present their case studies of how they've integrated human factors. And the first year was we had some really great presentations, but it was hard to find people to present.
Yeah.
The second time we ran it, we had an overwhelming response from operators of people who wanted to showcase the great work that we're doing.
Yeah.
And so that was really amazing to see as well.
There's so many positives in that, Justine. I guess going back to your original observation that you've got operators with embedded human factors professionals performed better. What a great advertisement for what HFE professionals do. But also the fact that there were operators not only embedding this now in their safety cases, but also willing to showcase what they've done and share their knowledge with industry. Is there any particular project that you're working on at the moment you'd like to tell us about, or is there anything?
Oh, that's a tough one. What we're doing now, so I have another inspector who's working with me. We've expanded our team to 2 human factors inspectors, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And so what we're working on now is comparing different human factors analysis tools for different situations so that we can then assist operators when they come and ask us what tool would we recommend. So we are trialling, a modified SIOPA approach, as well as the CREAM approach, and safety critical task analysis, so that we can demonstrate to operators how it can be done. And through that, we're hoping to develop some guidance material around how to do this yourself, how to conduct a human factors analysis, and what tool then might be the most appropriate. We have drafted a guide on conducting a safety critical task analysis, and we've done that in collaboration with industry. So we've gone out to a couple of operators and trialled this tool with them, and also the guidance to see if there was a shared understanding of how to conduct this process. So that's another exciting initiative that we have underway.
That's fantastic. You've done an awful lot really in the last 6 years. If any of our listeners are keen on finding out about how human factors might be integrated in these major hazard facilities and petroleum safety issues, there's a wealth of information on the website you have for human factors, including information on safety critical communication, usable procedures, and integrating human factors into a bow tie analysis. So what you're talking about with this latest project, I suppose, is taking that a bit further now into how to proactively use these human factors models in order to prevent major accidents and events. Would that be correct?
Yes, absolutely. So we would hope and we envision that our operators would pick a safety critical task in their operation and start just going through them one by one and conducting an analysis of those tasks to see if there's anywhere they can improve the human factors in relation to whether it's implementing a control or safeguard to improve the human performance of that task and to protect people.
Yeah. I guess that takes me to the question of what challenges you might have come across when trying to work with operators on human factors, albeit potentially lack of knowledge on this particular area, or that process safety or processes and production might be valued over human safety and those sort of challenges. What challenges would you have come across in your work?
Initially, it was interesting. In the first year, I came across a variety of responses to the work we were doing. So there was a very polarisation between people who were fully on board and have been known about human factors for a long time and could see it being useful for their industry, to probably less mature operations who didn't understand human factors and didn't believe in it and asked me to explain why it was important and what difference it would make to the operations. A bit like when we used to have to explain what is stress and does it actually really exist.
So there was quite a variety then of understanding and knowledge of this area.
You are listening to the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society podcast. If this podcast sparks your interest in human factors and ergonomics, why not join us? You can find out more by searching for us at ergonomics.org.au, where you can join the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society of Australia, who offers unique insights through our conferences, professional networking and events in this growing scientific field.
I guess that brings us to the fact that there was success, because now here 6 years later, you're talking about operators not only understanding this, but being able to show good practice in this. If you could do things differently with introducing these self-assessment tools for the operators, what would you do differently if you had the opportunity to do it again?
I think I would make the assessment tool a lot shorter. It was very long because we wanted to capture all the different areas of human factors. And as you know, it's it's quite a large discipline, and it can be quite overwhelming if you were to look at the tool in its whole. So I would try to develop a tool which was a lot shorter but could still capture the main elements of what a good system looks like that integrates human factors.
Yeah. Well, what are those major things you were talking about? I know you've got your 5 principles of human performance. Are those the sort of things that you integrate into the tool? Is that right?
The 5 principles of human performance probably more so relate to incident investigation, and also how we design work for people. We need to acknowledge that people are not robots. They will make mistakes. Even robots make mistakes. But we need to acknowledge that there will be mistakes, but there also will be times where people will overcome challenges because of our strengths as well, that we can put together multiple pieces of information that are new and novel and come up with a solution. Yeah. So it's really looking at how we can design robust systems that if a failure does happen, it's going to be of a small consequence.
Yeah.
So we look at, in terms of a system of work for human factors, we're looking at training, competency, how procedures are designed, because that's really quite critical in high-risk industries, where accuracy in performing a task is very important.
Yeah, yeah. I know that from my experience as a regulator, and I guess we've got the benefit here of being able to work in the same kind of industry, but one of the areas that people, I think, misunderstand potentially is that human error, a lot of the incidents that do occur are blamed necessarily. It stops at human error, and there's not really a lot of understanding about those error mitigation strategies.
Yes.
How do you see that we can overcome that as HF? I mean, this is just in the petroleum sector. I'm sure there's other industries which have even more challenges, but with major accidents and events, how do you sell that to say the importance, other than the fact, obviously, you want to avoid a major accident event, when you have a low maturity level? How do you go about?
I have done that before.
Yeah.
We see, so when an incident happens that's reportable, we request the investigation report, and often we'll see human error as the cause, as one of the contributors or causal factors. So if that happened, that's a flag to me to go back to the operator and ask them to explore why that human error occurred, what led to that. And sometimes I've even sat with operators and we've gone through the incident and I've helped them conduct the analysis. I'll say, was it because of the procedure that was incorrect? Was the person trying to do a workaround because the procedure was not right or didn't cover this situation? Was it because of safety critical communication, which comes up a lot in our incidents as well? And so we work through that, and then they can actually see the value of that and realise that it didn't matter who was doing that task at that time, that incident probably would have happened anyway.
That is so interesting. So even if, because this is an industry with a lot of contractors, temporary staff, people who are moving between different workplaces, so that would be really important for contractors to know, right? That it doesn't really matter who is performing the task, the error would have occurred because of the usability of the procedure potentially.
Because of the systems, the issues in the system. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So it could have been the procedure, it could be that they didn't have the right tools available, the diagrams explaining what piece of equipment they needed to work on were incorrect. Yeah. So it really wouldn't matter who the person was or what they would do. It doesn't matter if it was a supervisor doing that work or a trained person. It's likely they would have still made the same mistakes. Yeah. And
I guess what comes with that, and you've got one of those checklists on your website, is you've put together ways to integrate or how to consider usable procedures, and you've got some really good guidance in that. If people are working in this sector, it might be usable. But Did you find there was any pushback from operators, other than obviously compliance issue is one thing, and we work in a compliance field, but we don't always want to use a big stick approach. What are the other ways that you can explain or sell the message of the importance of considering a human in the design of a procedure or a process?
I really enjoy going out to site and asking the workers who are doing the work to show me how they do it. And I always make sure I have the right people in the room there with me. So, for example, we went out to a major hazard facility. We asked them to demonstrate their chemical sampling procedure to us. So I had the procedure in front of me. We had a really good field worker who showed us what they did and why, and it wasn't quite according to procedure. For example, there were certain vents that weren't connected, so we asked why they weren't connected, and according to the person, they weren't necessary. We asked why they were holding the vial a certain way when the procedure said not to hold it. Procedure said to hold it a different way, and it's because so the gas didn't release into their face. So in doing that and showing the people who wrote these procedures that people are doing it a different way because it's safer, because they've realised it's easier, that really helped to demonstrate why it's so important.
Yeah, and so you're really showing the difference between work as planned and work as done, because you've got, when you're actually getting people to walk you through a procedure and finding those gaps, you can then explore why those gaps are there. Is that how, from there, you find it easier to go back to the operator to say, look, the procedure may need updating, or is it, what are those kinds of solutions then that you work through?
Yeah, well, the great thing is that with having the decision makers with me, why we do that with the field operators, they already start to identify that the procedure needs updating. We need to do this with other safety critical tasks. Perhaps the way the engineer wrote the procedure isn't actually how it's done in practice. And we need to do that in consultation with the workers who actually perform the work every day.
Yeah.
So it was great. It was a very eye-opening or enlightening moment for those process safety engineers that were with me at the time.
Yeah.
And I guess role modelling those questions you could ask your field workers really helped to show and demystify human factors for them. It's just about being curious and asking, why are you doing it this way instead of what's in the procedure.
Fantastic. Oh, I really love that, because it sort of takes me into that question about, if you had somebody who is just starting out in this field of practicing human factors and specifically in process safety or oil and gas, what recommendations would you have? Because it sounds like one of the first recommendations would be speaking with the workers and asking why they do work as they do. Is there any other recommendations you'd have for those starting out in this sort of field?
The main thing is be curious, because in major hazard facilities, oil and gas, even probably in mining, there's very much a perception that you need to have that experience to know how the work is done. And not everyone is going to have every experience to be able to say, okay, well, I know how to do a chemical sample, or I know how to load the process conveyor belt. So it's about treating the people that you're talking to, so the field workers, process engineers, as they're the expert, because they are. They do this work every day. Yeah. And I just really enjoy asking them questions, and they also get to then talk about the work that they do and be proud of it, which I think is great. And I get to learn how it's done and pick up a lot from them, and then share that learning with other operators in a confidential way, so that we can all learn from what people are doing in industry and what's good practice.
Yeah, exactly. I really like that, because you've touched on an area which in HFESA, we've often spoken about participatory ergonomics,
Yes.
which is that exactly what you've described, meeting a user where they're at, why they are doing things a certain way, with a no-blame, open mind to work out what might be the shortcuts. And I love going back to that James Reason principle of why when you take the shortcut may actually be safer. And I wonder sometimes if one of the challenges we need is to not have the technical skills and to walk in with a fresh set of eyes, to say, I'm not familiar with this control panel. Talk me through how it works. Talk me through the alarms. Talk me through all the things which could potentially fail and lead to a major event.
I think so. And even if I am familiar with it, I'll still ask those questions because there may be something I don't know, but it gets the person who's using the equipment or doing that task thinking about, could I do this any differently? Why am I doing this that way? And then come up with their own answers. And I guess it's like teaching the person how to fish instead of buying them the fish.
No, it's true. And look, in a way, you've taught a whole. You've done that in a way by setting up these information sheets. Just for reference for listeners, I'll put the link in the show notes for this particular episode, but there are a list of wonderful checklists that you've put together to assist in oil and gas, and they may be applicable to other industries. Would that be fair?
I think they would be for anywhere where there's high-risk tasks which may result in a serious injury or fatality. They will be important, but we've got some topics there that are important anywhere. So training and competency, and how to look at avoiding skill fade, for example, and what you need to do for that. So I really enjoyed writing that one because it was one of the main topics that came from our industry.
Yeah.
And what I love is, as you said, participatory ergonomics, is that these topics we wrote because our industry told us they needed more information on these areas. Yeah. And that's what we're all about is, as a regulator, is we want to help people and guide them. Yeah, exactly.
Look, I am biased because I work for a regulator, but if you were to be working in industry and you don't have, say, a regulator's hat on your side, other than being curious, are there any other skills that you'd recommend for people to bring into the human factors and ergonomics as a professional?
I think there's a lot of great information out there and courses now that people can do, and you don't need to have a university degree in human factors or related industry or profession. And I would, if someone is interested in human factors, I would definitely encourage them to take up that learning because they provide valuable information to people and direct people to the tools that are available so that they can do it in their own organisation as well. Yeah. And for those more complex situations or trickier situations, that's when they can call in a human factors expert, just like you would with any other situation as well.
Yeah, exactly. I like that you brought up the topic of short courses and potential, areas that one could upskill in human factors. It's something that HFESA is always looking toward and ways that we can work toward upskilling people who are interested in this field. But there's a lot of information if you're not familiar with the member resources in the Human Factors and Ergonomic Society website. They're purchasable webinars if you are interested in some upskilling there. But we are going to look toward, ways that we can promote short courses for human factors and ergonomics, because it's an area that I still think can be misunderstood.
Yes, I mean, it is, because when we say human factors, most people will ask me, is that psychosocial hazards? Yeah. And I'll say, yes, but it's much broader than that as well. Psychosocial hazards, from my point of view, falls within human factors, but it is a broad area of many disciplines that make up human factors professionals. So I think there's certainly, we could grow the understanding of what this profession does further. And I can only see that growing given how a lot of organisations and our operators are moving towards automation and remote operations, and that is a whole other field that while it might be not new for some people, for the majority of our industry in petroleum, moving towards a remote operation is got a whole lot of other human factors considerations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we know that we can't just expect that humans are going to be included into the design of every automated process. So that was one of those questions I was going to ask about where you see HFE professionals, what part would they play in a future workplace? And that might be one of them, is assisting in automation or AI-assisted processes and how to design humans into them. That would be one area. Is there any other areas in the future workplace that you think you see human factors and ergonomics professionals playing a part?
I think we're always going to play a part because people will always be a part of work. Even with remote operations and automation, you still need people. And whether it's AI teaming or designing processes or designing work environments, we should always have it. We'll always have a place. It just may look different in what we're working with in terms of equipment or things like that. But there'll always be people, and we'll always work together.
Yeah.
We need to consider that. What I would, I guess, like to see is human factors professionals being more involved at the design stage rather than when things go wrong or having to retrofit or change the system. So if we could get more involved in the design stage, I think that would save a lot of issues for operators as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that might be where oil and gas may differ from other industries like transport or rail, aviation, where there may be a lot more human factors in the design and maybe not so much in oil and gas. Yes,
a lot of our infrastructure is very old. We do have new plants being designed from time to time, but the majority are older or ageing assets. Yeah. And so many of the issues we face are where things haven't been ergonomically designed for people. So for valves and pressure safety valves and things like that are very hard to access, or maintenance is very difficult because of the way the structure's been designed. So even in control rooms, interestingly enough, little funny story, one of my inspectors went out recently to inspect a control room that had been actually newly designed. And asked where the emergency stop button was for the ops to shut down the plant safely. It was behind a panel and you couldn't see it.
Oh, wow.
So until someone with fresh eyes pointed that out, the operator didn't actually realise it was an issue, and then once it was pointed out, they said, we probably should move that.
Probably, yeah. What a fascinating thing, and a newly designed control panel. And look, I think we're always going to have differences in how people design processes, and if, like, aging assets are one thing, but even with new assets, unless you consider the variability of a user, and how many different types of user might be in there. First-time people in oil and gas, or people who might have had, what do you call that, the skill deprivation, where they may have been trained in a completely different way and their skills no longer matched current processes. Yeah, this is why I think that training and competency information sheet was so interesting. I really liked what you put together, and I keep plugging these because those information sheets on human factors have been really helpful for me in my work. So I'm very grateful you could come and talk to me today about these things.
Well, if you've got any ideas for topics, let me know. We are currently writing one on how we can manage the risk of psychosocial hazards in how they contribute to major accident events. And that's really come from industry as well, with, I guess, understanding that people impacted by psychosocial hazards does impair their performance, and we do need to provide psychologically safe and healthy work environments so that they can perform at their best.
It's so true. I've come across that myself. People think of it as just a potential health and safety issue for someone's stress levels. They might get an LTI, or, they don't often connect it with these major accidents and events. And so that would be a really interesting area. I'm looking forward to seeing how you put that together. Thank you.
No, it's good. I love the work I do.
Yeah.
I love working in human factors, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
And always open to learning different areas or talking to industry about what they need and how we can work together.
Yeah. Look, I'm very grateful you could talk to us today, Justine, and I guess I'd like to sign off by mentioning that you are the founding member of the Society of Industrial and Organisational Psychologists of Australia.
Yes, so Ali Burston and I co-founded SIOPA, or the Society for Industrial and Organisational Psychology Australia, and it's our 10-year anniversary this year. So it's really exciting because to see that SIOPA is our legacy, essentially, and it's going to carry forward and represent organisational psychologists in Australia in the future as well. And I am so proud of where SIOPA is now. Ali and I stepped away from being president and vice president quite a few years ago, and we still remain on the board. But it's been great to see our leadership team continue to take it forward, and I guess I'm extremely proud of that area as well.
I wanted to plug it particularly because anyone who is listening who is a member of the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society of Australia has access to SIOPA events at a discount because of our MOU. We've got a memorandum of understanding in recognition of the fact there's so many organisational psychologists now who work in the field of human factors and ergonomics and maybe have been applying these principles for years but potentially haven't been using the title of human factors.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a really exciting time to be working in human factors. So thank you so much for your time. Is there any other parting words before we sign off?
No, just thank you for having me. It's great to connect with other human factors professionals.
Thank you. And Justine, we might see you at the upcoming conference at the end of the year in 2026 in Sydney.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. All right, thank you.
Thanks for joining us at the Human Factors and Ergonomics Hub, brought to you by the Human Factors and Ergonomics Society of Australia, where human-centred design really matters. If you like this podcast, make us your favourite in your podcast app. We look forward to chatting with you next time.